The Eucharist is understood as a sacrificial meal? Well, not in the New Testament. That's just the church fathers who got the Bible wrong, right? That's what people are saying here in my comments. But I've been highlighting this is not just the church fathers. It's Paul in 1 Corinthians 10:21. The Eucharistic table is the table of the Lord, and he connects it to the offering of Israel, the sacrificial offerings of Israel. As we've seen, there are many early Christian sources that pick up on this connection between the Eucharist and the table of the Lord in Malachi 1. But that's not the only thing that can be said. In the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, Jesus takes the cup at the Last Supper and he identifies it with his blood. In Matthew, he says, "This is my blood of the covenant." Matthew 26:28. See also Mark 14:28. Now, commentators regularly point out that the imagery here is taken from Exodus 24, where Moses ratifies God's covenant with Israel through sacrificial offerings. Moses takes some of the blood of the sacrificial animals and he puts it on the altar, which symbolizes God. And then we read, Moses took the blood of the sacrificial animals and dashed it on the people. And he said, "Here is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you in accordance with all these words." Exodus 24:8. So just as the covenant with Israel was ratified through blood, right? Jesus is identifying his own death as a kind of covenant sacrifice in Matthew and Mark. And in Luke 22 and 1 Corinthians 11, Jesus speaks of the Eucharistic cup as the cup of the new covenant in my blood, evoking the prophecy of the new covenant in Jeremiah 31:31. But back to Exodus for a moment. What happens after the blood of the covenant scene in Exodus 24? Well, you guessed it. Like the Passover and the sin offering, the covenant sacrifice includes an edible dimension, right? It has to be consumed. The Israelites eat of the sacrifices. We read that Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel went up and they saw the God of Israel. Under his feet, there was something like a pavement of sapphire stone, like the very heaven for clearness. God did not lay his hand on the chief men of the Israelites. They beheld God and they ate and drank. Exodus 24:9-11. After the covenant is ratified, there's a kind of heavenly covenantal meal. So it's no wonder that the Eucharist is a sacrificial meal. Jesus' death is the covenant sacrifice, and part of that involves eating a sacrificial meal. The Eucharist is not a sacrificial meal in addition to Jesus' death on the cross, but it's of one piece with it. And so Christian tradition sees the Eucharist as a kind of heavenly meal. Well, why? Because it's appropriate. See, if the Israelites ate a special meal in the old covenant, in God's presence rather, when the covenant was ratified, the same should be expected in the new. There's a new covenant, there's a new covenant sacrifice, and so there's a sacrificial meal that's eaten in God's presence. More coming up in the next part.